If you're watching this video, you probably know that applying to Oxbridge is tough, and reapplying even tougher. But I did it. Hey everyone, I'm Tinru. I am a Singaporean student who applied to Cambridge twice before finally getting in. So in this video, I'm going to share a bit about what I did wrong the first time, what I did differently the second time, and any tips for some of you who may be thinking of applying or even reapplying to Oxbridge. I applied for the Chemical Engineering and Biotechnology course at Cambridge, but in this video I'm going to try to keep my advice as broad as possible for any courses that you are thinking of applying to at Oxbridge. For me personally, I applied during 2 years of mandatory military service in Singapore, and for that reason I felt that I was a little bit underprepared for the admission tests and the interviews, which are very academic by nature, because I had just spent so much time away from schoolwork and academic stuff. But it also did give me a lot of time to polish up my personal statement, so it's kind of a give and take thing with gap years. Naturally, when I got rejected the first time, I was pretty disappointed, but I did email the college that I applied to, or I filled up some form to request for rejection feedback, so the reasons they rejected me, and they just gave me my test scores, my interview scores, and compared to the general interview scores and test scores of an applicant who was accepted. And that was something that actually encouraged me to reapply, because I saw that I was pretty close to the average score of the accepted applicant. When the time came around for my second application, I think the biggest change that I made was to just spend much more effort preparing for my admission test, preparing for my interviews. And I would say that even if you are still in school, it's definitely worth dedicating some time into checking out the requirements, the syllabus for the admission tests, doing the practice papers, because they may be a bit different from what you learn in school, especially if you're not from the UK. And even if you are from the UK, you may realize that the way that they test the questions are different. So for example, for me, in the admission test, the questions were easier, but the time constraint was really tight. So I had to mentally prepare for that. And that's not something that I really mentally prepared for in school, where the way that they make exams difficult is mainly through harder questions, not through shorter times. So that's really my first advice for anyone planning to make a successful application to Oxbridge. Do as many practice papers as you can, and regarding the interviews, do mock interviews with friends, families, your teachers, and maybe even seniors who you may know have gotten into Oxbridge for your course or a similar course, because that will really help you prepare for the specific requirements of what they are looking for. I didn't use any paid agencies to help me prepare for any part of my application process, and I don't think that is strictly necessary, although it definitely helps to streamline the application process. So for that, I'll leave it up to you, but I will include some links in the description below of some free websites that I used to help me prepare for the admission test. And if you are from Singapore or Malaysia, you can check out CUMSA, KAMSA. They offer free mock interviews around, I think, November, December every year, around the period where the interview offers start coming out. So you can sign up for them and just get a free mock interview. For the interview, I would say treat it like a conversation with the professors, not like an exam. So you really have to practice thinking out loud, explaining your thought process, not just writing it down on a shared whiteboard or on a piece of paper and then showing them what you've done. They really want to hear your reasoning, because if they don't hear it and you are completely off track, then they can't really guide you back on the right track. So how do you prepare for these interviews? Well, one way, probably the most effective way, is through mock interviews either with seniors or teachers or even friends, but these people won't be there to help you 24/7. So one way that I thought worked quite well for me is to just find practice questions online, which once again I'll link in the description, or even just A-level questions that you've done before, and just try to speak out your thought process as you are doing them. It's also good to record yourself while doing this, so that you can notice when you throw off and you stop speaking, because that's not what the interviewers want to see. Some other misconceptions that people may have about the interviews is that if you don't give the right answer, or if you don't know the answer to the question, you're screwed. So that's completely not true as well. They do design the interviews to stretch you beyond your abilities beyond what you've learned in school. So they probably start with something that's simple, something that you've learned in school, and progressively step it up. So when they ask these questions, it's not to see whether you can give them the right answer on the spot. It's really to, mainly I think, to see how you make use of the information that they give you and come up with a detailed thought process and not necessarily come to the right answer, but justify whatever conclusion that you make. Next up, personal statement. So the personal statement is also a really important part of your application, and I believe that they're changing it to short answer questions now. And I think that that's much better because they really spell out what they're looking for in their short answer questions. Whereas the personal statement is just a 4,000 character, write whatever you want to write. And one thing that I think is really important is supercurriculars. So what exactly are supercurriculars? Well, they're basically things that you do outside of your classroom, outside of the exam syllabus, that shows your genuine interest and passion for the academic course that you're applying to at Cambridge. So they really want to take in people who are genuinely passionate for the course, not just someone who with good test scores, although that is a minimum requirement. These supercurriculars can range from research opportunities that you've seeked out yourself, or even just books that you've read that relates to the topic. And hopefully they should be books that are well regarded within academics in your field. Next up, I'm going to be talking about colleges. So if you didn't already know, when you apply to Oxbridge, you apply to a specific college, and that will make up the accommodation for the time that you spend studying there. If you don't really care which college you go to, you can make an open application, although I wouldn't do that because I'm sure you have some preferences as to which college you want to go to, for example, distance from the central location, etc, etc. But I won't dwell too much on this because other videos have been made on this and I think they can explain it much better than me. I also link in the description a flowchart for choosing a Cambridge college made by, I think, a YouTube channel called Ilias Cambridge Advice. When I reapplied, I did reapply to a different college, and I think this is where it might be a bit important if you are reapplying. So on the Downing College website, they do mention that if you reapply, they recommend that you reapply to a different college. It's not certain that if you reapply to the same college, they'll reject you. There's people who have reapplied to the same college and been accepted a second time. But the rationale that they gave was that it is possible that the professors there or whoever is managing the applications will remember why they rejected you the previous time. On to some more general feedback about reapplying. So if you got rejected the first time and you really want to go to Oxbridge, don't worry, because I know people who have made it in only on their second or even third attempts. But one thing that you should definitely do is to seek the college that you applied to for some rejection feedback. So for me, it was very numerical, very quantitative, just my test scores, my interview scores versus people who are accepted. But some colleges really do give quite detailed reasons and feedback on your rejection, which you can definitely use to help you in your second application. So you can also go from there and decide whether or not you should really reapply. Seeing how far off you were from the average acceptance is I think an important factor to consider, as well as another thing, which is what current offers do you have so far. So you've already got an offer from another great school like Imperial, LSE, UCL, then are you willing to take the risk to reject that school to reapply to Oxbridge? And that's something that you can really only answer for yourself. Now, if you do decide to reapply to Oxbridge, then one thing that you should definitely do is to keep doing the supercurriculars during your gap year, because that's something that you can add into your personal statement or short answer questions. And if you don't, then and use the exact same personal statement, short answer questions that you submitted from the previous year, what that's going to show is that you haven't really done anything to grow your interest, grow your passion, or grow your knowledge in the course that you're applying for. And that's definitely not something that they want to see in a reapplication. If I'm going to sum up the key points I've discussed so far, number one, regarding personal statement, supercurriculars are key. They show that you have passion beyond the exam syllabus, beyond the classroom for your subject. Number two, for the admission tests, spend and dedicate time and effort into really preparing for the specific format of these tests. Number three, the interviews. If you can find places that offer mock interviews, or even ask your teachers and seniors. If not, film yourself speaking out your thought process when trying to tackle some difficult A-level questions or online questions. So once again, applying to Oxbridge is a difficult process, and if you apply or you reapply and you get rejected once, twice or thrice, I think it's always important to remember that these decisions don't define you. The university you go to, as cliche as it sounds, it really doesn't define your worth as a person. So if you are rejected, then I think just keep your head up, and the sun is still gonna rise tomorrow, whether or not you get accepted or rejected. With that, I think I've come to the end of everything I wanted to say. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm also considering that if this garners enough attention, I may put my email address in the channel description, so people with questions about applying to Oxbridge can contact me there. If you have no questions, then I'll see you next time, right? Bye.